Ideja ovog panela je podijeliti s vama iskustva IPR komitija u Američkoj gospodarskoj komori. Dakle, u svakoj zemlji postoji jedan takav IPR komitij koji su vrlo aktivni i moje prvo pitanje bi bilo, isto mi bi s naše sa hrvatske strane bi željeli podijeliti šta mi radimo na IPR polju, pogotovo s naglaskom na nekakvu edukaciju, i voljeli bi isto tako čuti od kolega šta se događa u njihovim zemljama. Možda mi možemo tu nešto naučiti ili oni od nas, ne znam. Jaka, you want to speak Croatian? Or?
Can I mogu engleski, pošto mi je malo lakše.
I'm okay.
If I can speak English, that'll be a bit easier.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Prvo, mi smo svi u Sloveniji, ako ste bili recimo iz Maribora, onda ste u neko vrijeme gledali ORF 1 i 2 i tako učili njemački. Ako ste bili iz Ljubljane, onda smo svi gledali HRT 1 i 2, ali malo je to vrijeme sad prošlo, pa možda nismo toliko jaki više na jeziku, pa ako mi oprostite, onda ću ja na engleskom. Malo mi je lakše kad su malo stručnije teme da debatiram. Thank you very much again for inviting me, and congratulations for this conference on behalf of AmCham Slovenia. Now, when we talk about experience of AmCham, we first need to understand that AmCham is a commercial organization. So we basically try to focus on issues and challenges of intellectual property through a standpoint of economic and business sectors. Why is that important? Because in all societies, especially in societies that have not had the culture and importance of intellectual property for a very long time. For example, in Slovenia, we adopted new copyright legislation in 1995. At that time already, the laws were harmonized with the European Community legislation. However, practice and awareness and culture among people does not change that fast. We have very modern laws, but we don't have very efficient and modern, or we did not have very efficient and modern implementation of those laws. Now, when a debate in a society about intellectual property is opened, we have various fields of that debate. One of them is strictly cultural. One of the fields is political. Now we all have so-called pirate parties. I'm sure that in Croatia it's also erupting, or it's a party that, well, in Slovenia I can tell you it's pretty active, and I'm pretty sure that eventually they will come into some sort of a political framework. So, but that is, I would say, an abstract discussion, which is, of course, fueled by the fast and rapid development of new technologies. Before internet, it was not an issue so much. I mean, the issue was counterfeit, the issue was piracy, the issue was maybe in the early 90s, you could go to a marketplace and actually buy physical CDs or VHS tapes, which of course now is not an issue anymore. Now the issue is rapid development of new technologies, of internet, and thus, of course, questions arising from various parts of society, whether we need to pay for those IP rights or not, whether it's fair for corporations to charge for music uses or not. Now that is one field of discussions. What we are focusing on is how to make Slovenia or Croatia or Serbia or Bosnia or any other country more attractive as an IP environment for business, for investors. So we just held a conference similar to this conference last week in Ljubljana, and basically we opened or challenged a few issues which I will later on in our discussion share with you. Another thing that we would like to mention, or I would like to mention at this point, as Croatia is joining European Union also on the 1st of July this year, is that there is no magical solution provided strictly or just through the membership in EU when it comes to intellectual property. Laws in Croatia, just as laws in other member states of the European Union, have for a while been harmonized with European Union legislation. So 1st of July is not going to change much on the legislation framework, and it's not going to change much also on the, I would say, awareness issues or awareness field. So EU is really maybe just another, I would say, tool for both politics and businesses to act a little bit more strict when it comes to implementation of intellectual property legislation. Another problem we have in the European Union is that basically we have 27 different intellectual property legislations. We don't have a very harmonized framework for IP protection that would be basically something that we called European Union IP model, like they have in the United States or in Japan. So if somebody, you remember what Henry Kissinger said in I think it was in the 60s or maybe in the 70s, when he wanted to deal with issues regarding Europe and European Union. He said, if I want to talk to Europe, who do I call? Well, today you could say, well, call Germany probably because it's the biggest. But that would be a little bit cynical. But when an investor from America, from my practice, I can tell you, when an investor from America wants to do something in Slovenia, for example, or someplace else in Europe, he still has that old Henry Kissinger question. When I want to protect my business or my IP in Europe, who do I call? Now, for trademarks, you can say you can do a European Union trademark. For patents, I hope that we can slowly, we'll be able to say that you can have a European patent in this field. But basically, we still have a very fragmented environment in European Union, which on a global market for EU, as a community of 28 countries now, with Croatia joining, is still a very, very big problem. Maybe this is just for the introduction statement, and then I can go to more concrete solutions or propositions we have in Slovenia as AmCham.
Excellent. So 1st of July, no magic moment.
No magic moment.
No.
Well, very nice. There's going to be fireworks, and we're all going to have parties on the border also between Slovenia and Croatia. A lot of people are going to be very happy, but no magic moment for IP.
Okay. How is Macedonian AmCham looking on all this? What is situation right now?
I can try in Serbo-Croatian.
Okay, sorry.
Možda ću grešiti, ali prostite to. Malo, mislim da većinom ljudi ne uzimaju slušalice. Ono što smo mi počeli smo pre nekih 4 godina možda da aktivno radimo u IPR komitetu u AmChamu i to je bilo u isto vrijeme kad je i Europska komisija stavila na znanju da ako hoćemo put ka Europi je jedna od tačka koje moramo svakako dobro osmisliti i raditi nešto po tom polju i IPR. I oni su dali njima da urade neku strategiju kako za zaštitu IPR-a. To je bilo znači 2006. do 2009. pa su onda produžili do 2011. I sad je to završilo i kao u prvoj fazi je bilo da se sve zakoni harmoniziraju sa europskim zakonima, što je završeno. I ostalo je ono što je i kolega iz Slovenije rekao, da se ta legislativa primjeni na terenu. I ono što trenutno imamo je zakoni uspostavljeni, ali ne postoje precizni podzakonski akti i regulative i pravilnici, akcijski planovi unutar svih nadležnih institucija kako to da dobro odrade na teren. Ono što mi kao AmCham pomažemo je da ovim institucijama povežemo i da pokušamo zajedno sa našim advokatima koji su članovi AmCham IPR komiteta pomognemo da oni daju te predloze da se takve podzakonske akte i regulative dopreciziraju i detaljnije obrazlože procedure po koje oni treba da rade. Isto tako pokušavamo bar svake godine po 2-3 obuke, bilo to za pravosuđe, da li je za sudije, da li je za market inspektore, za inspektore u Ministarstvu unutrašnjih poslova, da nekako dobližimo ovu problematiku koju za njima je totalno nepoznata, pošto do pre 3 godine to se uopšte nije radilo i nama je bilo teško na početku uopšte da njima objasnimo da je ovo bitno nešto. Znači stav koji su oni imali na početku je bio da to je problem koji ne zanima nas previše, da mi imamo i drugih puno bitnijih problema od IPR-a i da je to nešto što možda globalne velike kompanije interesira i da oni samo štite njihova prava, nikako nisu umeli da to povezu sa lokalnom ekonomijom, lokalnih inovatora, proizvođača, šta god bilo. Onda kad su oni počeli raditi i imali smo prvih zaplena i akcije na terenu, onda se ispalo da nije samo globalne kompanije koje su bile krivotvorene proizvode, nego je bilo proizvode koje su bile od lokalnih kompanija. Imali smo mi krivotvoreni vina, znači Special Edition, Tikveš, poznata fabrika za vino, našli smo puno toga što je krivotvoreno u Makedoniji. Onda smo našli puno različitih stvari koje nisu imale veze sa nijedna globalna kompanija. Bilo je tu antifriza, bilo je sokova, prirodnih sokova, kao 100% prirodnih sokova koji su bili krivotvoreni. Onda su bili, ono što je pomenuo i neki gost, autodelovi, osigurači, slovenski osigurači su isto bili neki krivotvoreni. Znači, bilo je proizvode koje niko nije ni pomislio, da detergenti, isto iz lokalnih kompanija koje su bili originalije krivotvoreni. Tako da kad su uvideli da je u stvari nešto što možda ne dotiče samo globalne kompanije, nego i lokalno i kompanije i biznise, međutim i krajne korisnike, onda su malo pomaknule neke stvari, pa smo uspeli nekako da, počevši od njih, educirati i ostale biznise da malo paze na to. Ono što u zadnje vrijeme radimo je preko Vibe-a dobili smo prava da distribuiramo, da prevedemo i distribuiramo buklete u osnovno obrazovanje i dobili smo potvrdu i odobrenje od Ministarstva za obrazovanje i od Biro za razvoj obrazovanja da te sadržine umetnemo u regularni kurikulume koje postoje. Sad smo u onoj fazi da dogovorimo kako bi to i na koji časovima oni to prezentirali, mada je to sadržina koja vrlo lako može da se prisposobi na časovima muzičko obrazovanje, likovno, informatika, imamo jedan tvoreštvo, ne znam kako je prava reč, ali ono da se nekako kontinuirano učimo od male noge. Zato što je posle kasno. Znači, kad otac ide zajedno na Autopazar i kupi igru, muziku, film zajedno sa sinom, onda je teško tu bilo što promijeniti ako se takvo nešto ne dešava još od malim nogama. Da se to zna da nije pravo i da ako oni hoće nešto svoje da rade, da to treba da cijeni i tuđe. I ono što isto hoćemo i smo počeli nekako, u Microsoftu imamo jedna inicijativa koja se zove Partners in Learning ili partneri u učenju i imamo potpisani ugovor sa Ministarstva za obrazovanje da radimo sa nekim nastavnicima i mi smo dio ove sadržine i još neke druge materijale koje postoje online dali ovim malo ambicioznijih nastavnicima da oni rade projekte na temu IPR-a zajedno sa svojim učenicima, što je bilo prilično dobar odziv je imalo kod dobar dio od njih koji baš hoće nešto različito da rade i na neke druge metode, da koriste i IT u to i da i učenici budu aktivno uključeni i mislim da će to isto tako roditi sa plodom, nadam se sljedeće godine da ćemo imati veći broj projekata koji bi mogli prezentirati na kraju kako nam je plan u AmChamu.
I mađarski
I missed the question, which shouldn't hinder me as a lawyer to answer it, but it's...
Never mind. So basically we start...
what AmCham does, not?
We start, you take your heads off, so I'll ask questions in English. So we start as a sort of introduction. What is AmCham IPR committee doing in certain country in sense of education, of I don't know, end consumer or education of public or education of customs, police or...
Okay, well in Hungary, AmCham has an IPR committee as well. which basically does indirect work, I should say. So as AmCham, there is not too much Hungary does, but AmCham, through its IPR committee, is a member, and this is very important, I think, in the so-called National Board Against Counterfeiting, which was established by the Hungarian government in cooperation with the Hungarian, now Intellectual Property Office it is called. And it has now 3 working groups, one working group on medicines, pharmaceuticals, the other one is anti-forgery working group, and the third one is enforcement working group, which is basically to put together and to bring together law enforcement, investigators, judges, prosecutors, and the stakeholders to discuss all this issue and to come up with solutions. So that's what AmCham is doing in that field. And now just really listening to the other colleagues, I think when we are discussing about education, we should very much distinguish between copyright and industrial properties. I believe that in the field of industrial properties, when right holders want to educate, they should educate investigators and prosecutors and judges, so the enforcement side. While I think when we come to copyright, as you also mentioned, much more the public should be educated, and you cannot start as early enough, so the schools should be very much targeted. And me personally have very good experience when you go to universities to give a lecture. For example, I do that in the technical university sometimes, and there you have the architect students, and when you actually explain to them that they are basically an employee of the university, they should be aware that their diploma work, that the copyright in their diploma work is owned by the university. That's the point when you can get them. So if you can be personal, if you can bring some personal experience to their lives that they really can connect and can relate to.
Yeah. I would also like to share something what we do here in Croatia. We have one event that it started very small. It's called Stop Counterfeit, and basically what we do is, together with the police and customs, we go to the shopping malls and we make sort of little exhibition, and customs are showing what they confiscated last year. And initial goal was to at least try to educate people. Look, be careful, because this is even dangerous. And all the way in the beginning, there were a few funny situations. And then when we speak about education, there was one very young lady who we approached her proactively, and we asked her open question: would you buy a fake purse? Something like that was it. And she answered us quite dominant way. Yes, it's economical crisis, and I would buy fake, and why those companies are making so much money, and you know, very, very kind of firm answer we got from her. Then we asked her a second question. Okay, then you would buy this fake, you don't care. Would you give fake medicine to your kid? And then was a silence, because this is according to us, this is the main thing that we try to implant this idea to the people's heads, just at least to start thinking what they're doing. Not just damaging somebody economically, but there's also could be health. So this is what we try to achieve with this Stop Counterfeit. And we started very small, with 2 desks in a shopping mall. Now we are very big. We almost, if we do event, we will take all square in a certain city. So there is Zagreb, Rijeka, Split. We also move to all country, and also happy to mention that some other countries are asking us. I think Albania will have the copy-paste system this year. So
last time when we were in Ređelovac, we were with our president of the coordinative body for IPR, and when he back in Skopje, he said, let's do it. So I think that in May we will make something similar, and we already spoke with the customs. They have a lot of seized goods, and we will do something similar. Maybe as it was in your beginning days, smaller, but we will do that.
Exactly. So it's learning both ways. So believe me, it's also learning from us. We are all kind of professionals in our job, and we know what we are talking about, but common shopper, they really don't know. And when you can be kind of surprised when you got the questions from them. And this is sometimes we know the answer all the time, but it's I mean, it's not a shock, but we are surprised the way people can think about those things. So this is.
We also have one exhibition at the Skopje airport. So at the place where, just before the gates, there are several boxes with counterfeit goods. Showing them what shouldn't be imported, exported, but also it's a good way to show what kind of counterfeit products may be found and to see how they look like.
Yeah, that's true.
Can I ask you a question? That's a very good idea, I think. I mean, we had those awareness campaigns maybe 10 years ago, but they were not AmCham sponsored. Obviously, it was European Union or governmental actions. But I'm just wondering, when you do those kind of stands, do you label them with AmCham signs, American Chamber of Commerce?
Well, basically, we started like AmCham, little. And then more and more organizations join us. Mm-hmm. Now you should imagine we have a huge stage because the music industry join us. Mm-hmm. So we can cherry pick artists we have a free concerts. So there is also their sign. So there is also police actively contributing in customs. So also some of Croatian Institute for Intellectual Property. So this is not now only us. This thing become really big.
My question is because outside of this hall where we have this conversation now, I saw a screen with a Croatian, I think is she a piano player or a singer, and it says, "Thank you for not copying my music."
Yeah.
That's smart, I think, because people that's my experience, our experience from Slovenia, people tend to link or understand this issue if you present it through a form that is not too economically or label aggressive, if you understand what I mean. Yeah. If you say AmCham, or if you say British Chamber of Commerce, or German Chamber of Commerce, or Slovenian Chamber of Commerce is telling you not to use counterfeit or copyright products. People tend to have, at least Slovenians are this way, maybe is otherwise unaware, but they tend to be more reserved. They say, oh, the big economies or the big companies are trying to tell me what to do. Oh, I'm angry, I'm not gonna do it, I'm still gonna, torrent the movies down from internet. But if a popular singer, you don't know many popular singers from Slovenia, but we know all the popular from Croatia and Slovenia. But one of them is Zoran Predin, maybe you heard about him. So Zoran Predin, for example, if this guy in our collective, musical collective organization is called Sazas, and here it's help me, Zamp. Basically, so he's a very active member of Sazas, and if he comes up to a stage or if he makes a commercial saying, kids, music is art, and I need to, it needs to be protected, that's copyrights, that's different. So my question was how to basically present that to the general public, not to make it sound like you're trying to just protect economic interests, because every copyright issue or every intellectual property issue always deals with two sides. One is the right owner, and the other one are the users. It's two sides of the same coin. So basically, it's very important how you address the other side, which is the users, and how to be politically and sociologically smart, diplomatic. And I think it varies for cultures also how to approach that issue.
Definitely agree. There are excellent examples in Bosnia when AmCham, a few years ago, they make a comic book, a strip, and they went with this to schools. Kids love this. This is last year, with a local rap band, very popular in Bosnia. They make a video clip where they promote themselves. So this is how they try to attract young people. Try also sort of education. But I agree with you. You should be diplomatic in those things. To turn the discussion a little bit on other ways. So we do educate. We do see results in our countries. What would be like Hungarian market 5 years ago and now? Do you see any differences?
In way of protecting IP or in way of counterfeiting it?
Counterfeits on the markets. This is what we look for.
Not really, actually.
Not really.
I think not too much changes. I mean, the main things were mentioned from trademark point of view or from the patent point of view, the pharmaceuticals, clothing, spare parts, and things like that. What is changing is copyright all the time, but it's also just, it's not a new phenomena, it's just the new methods, how they are infringing. So that's what I would say. I don't think I also try to raise public awareness. It's very difficult, especially with the president, which commits plagiarism. It's not a very good sign, I think. So it's just things like that happen. It happened in Germany as well. So I think these are the most important issues, what you can represent and how you can communicate. So.
And in Macedonia, do you see some differences, like 5-10 years ago and now?
Definitely. 10 years ago, nobody even thought about IPR. I mean, it was so normally that you go and buy a PC with pirated software and you don't even need to say what software do you need. So they will build anything that they have. And it was very easy to find it on the street and in the official shops. So it was not that they are hiding or putting some small tables and when they see police then they run, but they have official stores for selling it. And now there is a quite difference. So there is a difference, but still a lot to do in terms of enforcement, in terms of mindset, in terms of education, because what we do is usually somebody from the European Union Commission will come and say, okay, you don't have methodology how to track all cases. We receive different numbers from IPR cases from the court, different numbers from market inspector, different number from Ministry of Interior. Let's make a methodology for tracking these cases. And now they have 1 year from last year to make this methodology how to track IPR cases. And they finished that after a year. But nothing after that. So they did that because somebody else told them that they have to do it. Yeah. Yeah. And now we are waiting somebody else to tell us what is next, and maybe we'll do it.
Okay.
But there is no initiative inside the institution. So when we had a meeting, off-site meeting with these members of coordinative body for IPR, it is a body composed of people responsible in each ministry somehow connected to IPR. And they officially work in their own ministry, but they have meetings like a virtual body. And we said, okay, the 3-year strategy period ended. What's next in your pipelines? Do you have any plans regarding IPR? How will you deal it? What will you change? Do you have money to do that? Do you need somebody to help you how to do next steps? Only customs were ready. So they have a action plan for the next year, how to do it. And inside the institution, in terms of regular trainings, in terms of connection with the international bodies, in terms of getting access to all international websites that they can see the pictures and everything connected to counterfeit goods. Everybody else was like, we don't have anything in our plan, we don't have any budget separated for that, we don't have any person dedicated for that. So the next step will be either we as an AmCham will do something like, okay, let's make a break here, the strategy for making the legislation is done, let's do some enforcement strategy, how will you implement that in your native ministries? Yeah. And present that to them, and then let's see how will they do upon that. But without anybody from outside, either it is a chamber or European Commission, it's nothing that is done. I mean, they are waiting on this coordinative body who is, I must say, a very positive approach, because they somehow collect information and from all everybody who has filed something that is somebody is using something counterfeit or producing, and they organized joint action within the ministries, and it is effective. because they are going inspectors from one city into another, and the bribe is decreased, but again they have in their pipelines like 4 or 5 raids in a month, which is very much not effectively. So we have a lot of other in the pipeline to be done except these 5 per month raids.
To be honest, me being responsible for all region, I can notice really that certain government bodies in certain country, doesn't matter, they do their job just because they have to do this a little bit, and they do just enough not to get bothered with this. So the results are quite small, and we are aware. That's why I ask you, how does your market looks like?
The report from European Commission usually says we have seen modest improvements regarding IPR, but still a lot of things needs to be done. And this is something that we read in the last 3 years in the report.
But correct me if I'm wrong, your customs are really good.
Really good.
They got the world awards.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. They are like miles from other institutions. Yeah.
Slovenia, what is it?
I think I'm just going to basically add, because it's the same or similar in most of our environments. First of all, we will not have customs anymore as of 1st of July in Slovenia. So no more custom officers, no more borders.
A Koper, I hope.
Well, Koper will still be okay, and the airports, but no customs as this. So we're going to be almost a customless society.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I wanted to say something else. It's pretty much the key is enforcement. We come, unfortunately, or fortunately, but I'll say unfortunately, from societies where it is almost, I would say, imminent that some outside force pressures us to do something. When we were joining the European Union, we all knew that we need to do this reform, that reform, that reform. In Slovenia, I'm saying. We only did it after the 2nd, 3rd, 5th European Commission report saying, now you must do it. And then I go to Brodogradnja in Croatia as a very typical example also, or some other examples that we have in other countries. So basically, we are doing things when we are forced from this outside power of some sort. The same was in Slovenia. Now, if we go to IP, you can see improvement in those fields where enforcement is easier or is even feasible. For example, industrial property, pretty much excellent now. Okay, trademarks, patents, counterfeit, stuff like that, because government can enforce rules in these fields. Media. I remember 10 years ago you went into one of those like Tisak for newspapers stands, and you would say, I want a magazine that talks about good life, and everybody's beautiful and we need to eat healthy. So you open up this magazine and half of the contents were piratized from foreign magazines. And nobody did nothing for 10 years. Go into Tisak now and find a magazine that says, I don't know, in Slovenia we have women named like Mojca or Jana or something like that. And then you open it and basically all the photos, or most of them, are just scanned from foreign newspapers. Now, that changed also in the last years because obviously government can go to a Tisak stand and say, whoa, this is copyright infringement. So, in those fields, you can see very, I would say, considerable development. And once more, it has nothing to do actually with, I would say, or a little with entering into the EU in this case. It was more also the industrial pressure. Also, even AmCham has its role here, or BSA, the Business Software Alliance, etc., etc. Now, where I don't see any progress is the fields of copyright, especially, where government cannot enforce copyright laws. Kids downloading movies, music from internet. Government cannot enter into private homes and say, whoa, your kid has this many copyright, this many, I don't know, MP3 music or films or something like that on his hard disk. Even another thing happened, and I think in Croatia, but correct me also, that certain types of copyright infringement were even decriminalized further. For example, in Slovenia, it's getting even more liberalized in the field of private use of copyrighted material. So you have to have at least for 5,000 euros of illegally downloaded films, movies, or music on your hard disk in order to be, I would say, liable in a criminal proceeding. Basically, that means that pretty much all private use of music and films in Slovenia is decriminalized. That doesn't matter. That doesn't mean it's not subject to civil proceedings. Okay, copyright infringement in civil proceedings, but not in criminal. So basically, it seems like the government figured out that we cannot go after the kids and after people having music on their iPhones, so they focused all their energy on business sector and on large counterfeit and copyright violations, where they can, of course, enforce. So again, if I wrap it up, enforcement is, I would say, the key answer to this question.
Yeah, we touched this morning, we had a breakfast, and we touched one fact which scares a lot. I mean, it is scary. Croatia just adjust criminal law, and they raise the bar of is it criminal act or not, and they push it up to 60,000 kunas.
Which is how much euro?
Which is, 8,000 something euros? 10,000 US dollars. Mm-hmm. And basically, all criminal complaints are refused because this one sample of counterfeit, what we brought as evidence, will be considered not less value than 60,000 kunas, and the court is rejecting this. So, Zsofia, what do you think? Should we chase this privately? Do you agree that this bar is a little bit too high?
Yes, as we discussed,
you
know my presumption on that, so that's an unfair question, but I have to rethink that a little bit. 7,000 euros or 8,000 euros for Croatian standards or for the standards in our region, I think it's a little bit too high. However, I am definitely against criminalizing. So we always have to bear in mind that criminal actions and procedures, I think, should be the last what you use. I mean, as I also said during this breakfast, I think, and this is also somehow the responsibility of the companies who have these IP rights, just that they also make something to protect themselves and their IP rights by using the civil way. I mean, if Croatia will be a member of the European Union, it has to implement the enforcement directive. The enforcement directive says that within 15 days you can get a preliminary injunction to stop things like that. I know it will not be 15 days, but let's say it will be 45 days. It's fine enough. You will have within less than 2 months, or you should have a preliminary order from a civil law judge saying that stop, you cannot do that. So there are very much more effective civil law ways to pursue actions like that. And I think that if the companies and the right holders use it in a wise way, also making campaigns around it. Nothing stops you. When you have a preliminary injunction, you prove your case. You can publish the judgment in the newspapers. It is also in the enforcement directive. Use it. Why not? I mean, if you make also little private campaigns in that way, I think you much more control your cases. You have much more influence when you rely on the criminal way, where you leave everything to the state again. As you said, we have the tendency to pull back, let the others do their works, and then criticize them instead of taking our own responsibility and use rather the civil way.
Yeah, could be. This is interesting topic. I'm again, from a region perspective, seeing how those, let's call them criminals, cooperate.
But if everybody, it's internet piracy, how can you know how many of it they have sold so far?
I cannot know. That's the thing. And then again, if I see regional, I see that goods are shipped. Ad is placed in Croatia, but goods are shipped from Serbia. They are produced in Bosnia, and I will show up at the court with one sample what I have, and there is incredibly difficult for me to prove all chain, and I need really police or investigator in
Yeah,
your
that's
case.
what we use, private investigators.
Yeah,
So that's also very often that we engage private investigators and then hand over the report to the criminal authorities. Which is also, I mean, we have mixed experiences in Hungary that now you also touched on the enforcement side. We have unfortunately a big setback in the enforcement. So the new customs, it's a little bit confused what they should do. So the tax and cost authorization have been put together, and since then nothing works, which has been working very well before that. So the customs monitoring and all these things. But I see also cases, that you can detect through internet an infringement, let's say, in one city. Then you want to challenge that one city, you go to your investigator and tell them to go there. As you said, you will have one piece of evidence. The public prosecutor will not do anything. With that one piece of evidence.
I also mentioned in another room there was a little bit different discussion, but one interesting topic, interesting fact, is that increase of postal shipments from China only to Croatia in last year is 360%. So this is huge.
But it's also customs monitoring. That's then where the customs can be detained the same way. As it. And it is. I mean, in Hungary it is.
Exactly. In a perfect world, it is. So we're also noticing that they're shipping parts. So then it's again not customs, but they're assembled somewhere else and then sold again online. But okay, I understand. So it's. I would also. You said one interesting thing in your first presentation. I believe was connected to copyright. You mentioned it was. It would be easy, good. This is kind of situation which is good for the big companies and bad for the small. This is also, I'm just assuming that two organizations as AmCham, we could form a bigger body to manipulate those things. If we have a bunch of small companies who are not able to pay for investigators, who are not able to do so, maybe we as organization could help something. I don't know.
But you got to be careful, again, image-wise, how you do it. So AmCham is not just about, the role of AmCham is not just about to basically go like Business Software Alliance after the violations. AmCham is also about telling foreign investors that Croatia is great to invest in because it has a very good IP environment. So basically, and if you go against the public too much, then the AmCham becomes like a bad guy, and you've got to be very careful about how you basically.
Agree. I'm thinking more in terms of preparing the ground, not going against anybody. So very
PSA goes against, but you didn't mean it that way.
Exactly. And now for the end, I just have one question. So what is kind of concerns me that 1st of July, all government officials said, okay, now we join EU. Our job is done, let's go on vacation. Did you notice this in...
No, but basically, no, I'm Kim, and I asked first, or do you want to go first now? No, anyway. First of all, I know that you have elections for European Parliament next Sunday.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But I don't see pretty much any big discussion in the media or in the outside world. I went around Zagreb yesterday, talked to my friends, I said, do you know who you're going to vote for? It seems like after the last barrier, which unfortunately was also Slovenia, one of them, after the last barriers fell, and now that you will become members of the EU, it's almost like the government and people said, okay, job done, let's go on with our little petty stories, which is the same in Slovenia within the politics. So I would say no, because what happens after 1st of July is that they will have to go to Brussels very often, and that they will get their, I would say, ears turned around a little bit. So I would say they will not fall. On the contrary, in Slovenia, I think because they started to communicate more with colleagues from other countries and they went to Brussels on regular briefings, the standards of the governmental officials were raised after, in your case, 1st of July 2013.
I hope I will answer that question in 3 years.
Next time, okay. I hope so too.
In Hungary, back then I was working for the Ministry of Justice, the EU Law Department, so I can tell you personally, we didn't join mid of summer, which might help if you don't want your government officials to go on holiday. But when you consider the work, what you have already done, I think they were so much involved already during the past months that it will not be such a huge change. The first big change will be when you will be first president. of the EU. So that will be a challenge, I can tell you that. But until then, I don't think. So you will have a more closer relationship. You will have better opportunities to ask questions, to ask experiences. But much change, I don't think that there will be.
Nothing big.
No.
Excellent. So I guess we should conclude. Are there any questions from audience? Yeah.
I have one. I must say, as a person really actively involved in AmCham, that our IPR committee is really active and established really great relationships with institutions, very active, a lot of education and so on. We even started this public educational campaign together with customs and police officer and so on. What seems to be still one small part missing from our point of view is really a big public campaign, not just located in shopping malls, but maybe something what you, Mrs. Janeva, mentioned, work with the schools or some other ways of campaigning to change really the value system in Croatia. So can you maybe give us some kind of advice or maybe more information about this partnering that you mentioned?
Well, my advice is what is, but at least experience till now. We have started that with the schools several months ago. I was surprised that there are teachers that actually want to do something different and they want to change things. And they are very positive when you give them something that is already finished. So you give them materials, you give them already prepared curriculum that they only need to think how to present that to their children. And you have to find at least several of them in several cities that will want to participate, and children are when they are engaged, they want to do something, and it can be interesting for them as well. You're not telling them about the corporation or everything that is something that they don't understand. It's something that is very much adopted to their age. So it is a book of invention and patents, and they give examples of people that they invented something that they use now, and that they know that it's not something that fell from the sky, but it's something that some person invented that, and that they can do something if they learn, if they have good grades, and if they think how to do it. So, and the second one is arts and copyrights with music and pictures and software, and connected to something that they can do it. And we have cases when they have some theme for their school, so they have they use technology and make something that they own after that. So connect IPR to something that they produce at the end.
Thank you. Sorry, if I may just add the question to that. Did you cooperate with that with the Ministry of Education, or did you approach the schools directly?
Ministry of Education, we gave them the curriculums in English, and we translated several pages just to say what's inside. And ask them to allow us to engage with the teachers, and they approved it. So we were surprised how fast they approved that. It is a national curriculum. It's not something that some company did it. It is a WIPO material that allow us to use it. And the English version are online public, so it's not something that you cannot read it. Just give them a link and they have the English version. But we also translate now that in Macedonian and Albanian as well. So they will have it in local language.
Thank you. I think we really need it, because yesterday, I don't know if you participated attended the panel of entertainment industry. And it was a interesting remark from one of movie distributors that his kid got a pirate CD with movies downloaded from torrents and distributed practically to kids.
That is the case even in Macedonia. We have one of our colleagues told us that his daughter is learning some informatics, something like that, and that the teacher told them you can download it Office and make a presentation in PowerPoint. So this is the advice from the teacher, how to do it. So it's not going to be an easy job, definitely, to teach them.
Sorry for using this mic maybe too much, but I think this is a great source of ideas. I don't know whether your authorities are doing something on piracy issues by sending notices to heavy users of internet or things like in France.
I spoke with the McKenzie Telecom, which is one of the biggest IP provider. They told us that, and they are also members of AmCham, that they don't have rights to see the content of the downloaded material, and that they don't have rights to send any warning letters to their customers. I must say that I'm not sure whether it is correct or not, but this is something that they told me last time when I asked, is it possible to do it or not?
Don't believe them. Sorry to say
I mean,
that.
I was surprised because they are one of the IPR fighters on the field as well, because they have a lot of competition in cable operators. That
they are also content provider who get their money according to the content they provide.
But I don't. If you mentioned yesterday or somebody on the panel that that can be done in some agreement or something like that, that they can follow and they can make this warning letter. I will try to investigate more on this topic to see whether it is possible to do it or not, and whether it can be only on free will or it can be somehow legalized.
Actually, if I may say, within the EU e-commerce directive, and according to the e-commerce directive, and my very strong personal belief is, and I will just now test this, not only through the e-commerce, but also through the copyright law and the enforcement directive, very much so, these providers can be infringers if they do not comply with the provisions of the e-commerce directive, which has to be law here as well, which provides for the so-called notice and take down regime. So if you put them on notice that there is infringing content for which they are responsible for the provision of the content, for the provision of the technological means, and if they don't act, they will be reliable for the copyright infringement. This is the one case, this is the e-commerce, and I think also based on the enforcement directive, which makes or introduces certain remedies against intermediaries. They will qualify as an intermediary, so you will have the means to request, and which is very important, information on the persons who infringe. So you will be able to file even a preliminary injunction, even before the commencement of the actual statement of claims, with your courts, requesting the information if they are not willing to give it out from their free will. So then they will have to tell you who is behind that certain IP address which they supposedly do not know, which they very much do know. So it's just the ways it should work. And it should be tested, because I think it's outrageous that they always, and they say this is personal data, we cannot touch.
Yeah, we are not allowed to provide you privacy protection, etc., etc. So this is also, just to add on this topic, we as a company, we have a kind of I don't like to mention this is kind of strange experience, because if I, out of the small country of Croatia, ask something from a big company as, I don't know, Facebook, for example. So if you ask locally, then very difficult, something will move, something will happen. But I noticed that if you do it through US, we need 30 minutes to get certain things removed and stuff like that. So this is also kind of,
forum shopping.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do we have other questions from the audience?
Okay, then I would like to thank you very much. I want to apologize first for English. Idea was to do it in Croatian, but here everybody speaks English, so I don't see it's a problem, and it's nice for our guests, so it's easier, a little bit easier. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much for coming, for joining us, and looking forward to see you next year.
Hope to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.